by Louisiana registrars. And while I don't have a study in each area that we've been in, we know that because every user who buys property on Civic Source has to register, name, email address, mailing address, phone number, and we know where they are. And they're almost always local to the area where the property is being sold. Everywhere we go. And that makes sense, because this is not a tax lien. This is not a tax sale. This is actually buying property. And when you buy the property, of course, you're the owner of that property, and you have the responsibilities as the owner. So we have a lot of out-of-area people doing land grabs. These are local buyers wanting to come back and invest in that area, which is exactly what you want. So how does this work? Well, we have a market-driven model. What that means is that we will take the tax roll for the city, which comes from the parish assessor, and every year the assessor has to update the Louisiana Tax Commission in Baton Rouge as to the status of every parcel in the city, and whether that's adjudicated or not. We take that data and we validate all of it, and we pull certificates, and we verify that it's legally able to be sold. We do our GIS mapping, we put it all up on the website, we bring traffic to that website, and then we host monthly auctions every single month on the first Wednesday of every month at civicsource.com. What that does is it allows us to have frequent sales of property. So anytime that there's a property that's eligible and is cleared for research, it can go into an auction once a month. When we put the inventory online and we draw traffic to the site, what we're doing is asking investors to express interest in these properties. You don't want to have an auction where you've picked the properties or we've picked the properties and hope that people show up and buy it. That's been a model that has proven to have never worked before. So we have slides. That's good. It wasn't just our company logo. So I'll get into the slides in a second, and I'll wrap up my talking so you can ask me a bunch of questions. The investor-driven model is what works, because this is a complicated process. It is an expensive process. You have to pay attorneys and title examiners and researchers to do all this work and send out all this post, all this mail certified. Nobody has the money to do all of that up front. So what do you want? You want somebody to express interest in the property before you send it through all that heavy lifting. That's why this model works. We have your inventory online. Somebody comes forward and says, I'm interested in that one. We say, okay, put your deposit down. We put the deposit down online, and then it goes through all the process. So by the time it goes to auction, you always have at least one person who is interested in the property and has put money in, has put skin in the game. That's why our auctions have a 99% sale rate, which is unheard of. One reason is because every single property that goes in the auction has at least one person who's interested in it. It's kind of an easy gamble. So you know it's going to work. I think that 1% was somebody who forgot to bid, just got to show up at the auction. But anyway, that's how it works, and that's why it's successful. Now, one of the things I'm most proud of about the process is all of the heavy lifting that we do is trying to give these past owners their one last legal chance to redeem the property. That means we have to look really, really hard and spend a lot of time and effort to try to find them. And that's just part of due process. That has to happen. But it really does work, because in the last year and a half since we started this, there's almost 1,500 properties I mentioned. Almost 25% of those are redemptions. So when it says return to commerce, some people have, maybe for 10, 20 years, this property has not been paying taxes. Nobody's been paying taxes. But all of a sudden, we come along, this occurs, and somebody shows up with a check and pays all the patent. And when they redeem, they got to pay everything. No breaks or anything. So, but that actually is happening, which means that we're really finding people. We're really getting into the notice them. There really is a consequence, and some people are doing something about it. That's a great thing, because at the end of the day, the job of collecting taxes is to collect the tax. Selling the property is the last resort, and that's what we're very proud of. The rest of the properties have been sold back into commerce with title insurance and clear title, and that's something that has never been done before last year. So we do take it through the entire process. Once all the research is done and it's certified for an auction, it will go in the next monthly auction that's available. We will conduct the auction online. We then, once the auction is concluded, we have winners for every winning property, and then we actually conduct the closings here locally, and that's it. And then we end up filing all the paperwork of record, and certifying it, and clearing the title, and then we move on. So there's no part that we leave you with, there's no part that we leave them with. We actually make sure that everything is done correctly. Now the best part, I promised I'd tell you to leave it for last. Best part is that this costs the city absolutely nothing. What we're doing with an investor-driven model is we are doing all the upfront work for you, just to put it out there, so that people can be interested and be aware that these properties are there. We then actually have a physical presence where we go to every single property and we stake it with a for sale sign. This brings attention on two different fronts. Number one, it's a real estate, it's kind of like a realtor would have as a for sale sign in your yard. A, if there's somebody who has an interest in that property, they may not be aware that it's online. The sign makes them aware, and they may want to come in and pay. And which is actually another way of giving legal notice. It's constructive notice, is giving that to them by a sign. The other thing is it makes other people aware that this property is for sale. If there really isn't anybody interested in the property, it makes the neighbors aware. And you can also have a sale to the adjoining landowner by state law. You don't even have to go to an auction. If they qualify, if they've been cutting the grass for a year, and they live next door, they can qualify for an adjoining landowner sale by state law. That's another big plus. So the signs get staked in the yards, and it brings attention and it brings awareness to the properties that are available. So, we do all of that for you, and hopes, knowing and trusting our system, trusting that it's working, and it has been working. That's why we're continuing to do it. That's why we're here today. And then once that property goes to an auction, the opening bid at the auction is going to be the total of costs that it took for us to get that property to sale. That way we can recover our costs and continue doing this another day. If the depositor, actually his deposit is maybe about 20% of the cost. So we're fronting the rest of it. When that property sells, we recover the rest of our costs. And if the depositor is the winning bidder at the auction, then of course his deposit credits to his auction winning price. If somebody else wins at the auction, because remember the depositor is just one person who sets the whole thing in motion, and then you have a public auction where anybody can bid. If the winning bidder at the auction is not the depositor gets his money back in full, and the winning bidder pays the full price. Now here's the icing on the cake for you guys. If there is competitive bidding, which means at least more than one bid is placed, because remember the opening bid is just the total cost, every dollar over the opening bid is surplus proceeds, which comes back to the city in full. Civic Source does not charge a commission on the sales. We do not take any part of the sale price. The only thing we recover is our cost. Our margin's built into our cost, which is how we survive. Our survival is built into the sale of that property. So we win when you win. Like I said, we trust the system because it's working, and we have a 99% sale rate. So it's working well. Let me just flip through these really quickly, and then I'll let you guys fire away at questions. As we mentioned, this is properties that fail to sell at tax sale. They're always 5 years old. The state law says 3 years, but 5 years is helpful because it shortens the waiting period to go to an auction from the time you send notices out from 6 months to 60 days. And so you're not dragging this process out for nearly as long as if it were only 3 years. We do state law passes title to the owner, and then, of course, our partnership with title insurance companies offer title insurance. Of course, these are the negatives and things that we already know about, and the things that it can improve once these properties are back into mainstream. So this is pretty much on the back of your pamphlet that was in the folder. This is pretty much the same thing. These are the major milestones that we do. We do each one of these. Including the closing at the end of the day. The deposit for an interested purchaser is $850, and of course, if it ultimately gets redeemed by the person who owed the taxes, they get their money back in full. And if somebody else wins at the auction, they get their money back in full. The only way they don't get their money back at all is if they place a deposit and nobody bids at the auction, including them. That's the only way, because they have to actually place a bid, or someone has to bail them out by placing a bid for them. As I mentioned, the first Wednesday of every month we host an auction. So you may have a property that's eligible to go in that month, or you may not. But every month we'll have an auction so that if there is a property eligible, it can be sold without waiting too long. That is a little snapshot of our homepage where we will put
We'll advertise the sale of properties down here. We'll have an auction calendar where people can be aware that the city of Bastrop adjudicated properties are going for auction. There's a lot of cool features about the site, and again, these guys who programmed this are really, really smart, way smarter than I am. But they built this whole thing in here. These little clusters are numbers of properties in that area, and you never leave the website, but you have Google Earth in Google Maps, and you can zoom in, and you can see these little red dots. That's one property. That here, that's 156 properties. Of course, this is Baton Rouge. And when you zoom in even further, you can see actually we do have GIS mapping. So you see the parcel boundaries right here, and that red dot is the pinpoint center of that property. We don't put anything online for sale unless we can get this kind of accurate information, so people know what they're buying ahead of time. And that's the other thing. All of our information, every single thing we do for the title work and research, it all goes public. We want everybody, it's very transparent. We want everybody to be able to see what it is we've done, be able to do their research ahead of time, know before you buy. And you guys have access to it as well, but purchasers want to have this knowledge as well. They have the benefit of being able to review all this legal information before they buy. You can also look at it by a list view, and it shows you the address and the price, the opening bid price. This is one particular property. So this, if you click on one property, you'd see this at the auction site, where you'd be able to actually place your bid. We track every single bid placed, so there's fairness by the millisecond, or even beyond that. But one thing that's really, really neat, it's a really cool tech feature that we added in, because when you're putting property for sale online, the first concern is, well, what if someone gets it before me, then the property's gone? What if my computer wasn't working, or what if his speed was faster than my internet speed? And one thing we built in was traditionally this was done as a live auction, so you could really monitor that fairly. You could say you, and you don't stop until the hands stop going up, right? What we built in was something called the sliding close for auctions. So what happens is the scheduled closing time of every auction is 8 p.m. It goes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But if there is another bid placed, a competitive bid placed within the last 5 minutes of the auction, the end time slides out 5 minutes automatically. And that will keep going forever until there's no competitive bids being placed within 5 minutes of the close time. It gives everybody a fair chance to bid. There's no technological, and we also have a call center and a helpline. So we have people, literally with the headsets at the computer, ready to answer questions, ready to help people. We have over 50 people in our office in New Orleans that are staffed to help with this process. So it's a really big process, but it works really well, and people really are able to do this intelligently. So that's that, and investors who want to bid on multiple properties can do that. They can actually put this in their screen, so they can actually monitor all of their auctions. Proxy bidding just means that, just like it sounds, you can actually set your highest bid that you want to bid, and the system will automatically bid you up. If let's say you want to go in the morning, I will spend no more than $6,000 on this property. You put it in, you go to work. The system will automatically bid you up in the least amount necessary to maintain you as being the winner. And then if you get outbid, it'll send you an email saying you've been outbid. You may want to go back in if you still want to change your mind and bid higher. This is that screen where you see the banner at the top says bidding extended. That means that there was a competitive bid in the last 5 minutes, and it kicked it out. And we also have kind of like our live auction would do. If it's it's getting down to the last 30 seconds, it'll say going once, and it'll say going twice, and it'll say sold. And that's what you want to see, that big green banner. And if you didn't win, you get the blue banner. You lost. So since July 2015, where we held our first auction, these numbers are actually a little bit outdated now, because the slides were produced about a month ago. We've had the combination of this is about 100 properties more than that, and we've returned approximately $16 million of sales back to Louisiana authorities across the state. And this, as I mentioned, very proud of this. The redemptions, the notices work, the consequences work, the fear of consequences, avoiding it, and getting these properties back into tax rolls. And there you have it. So fire away. Who's got the first best good question?
How do we get started?
That's the best question you could possibly ask. Very, very easily. So there's two things that we need to get started, and one of them is the tax roll from the assessor. So we would need the tax assessor for the parish maintains a roll in a database that he has to report every year to the LTC. That digital file, he can click an email. It can be there in seconds. As long as the assessor controls that, though, so we just need to get that file, and then we can start reviewing the data and understanding where the properties are, how many there are, and going through that vetting process. We have a one-page professional services agreement. It's very, very simple. It says exactly what I just told you we're going to do. We're going to do everything for you. We're not going to charge you, and it lists the table of costs and fees that the buyer will pay at the auction, and that's it. So I can get a copy of that agreement to you once we have that signed, and we have the data file from the assessor. We're rolling. Takes about 2 to 3 months for our data team to process that information, and actually we work with local abstractors to go and pull the certificates to validate the adjudications. And once that's done, then we will come back to you first before it goes online and show you what your adjudicated role looks like and what can be put on the site. You guys approve it. If you can review it property by property if you want. There's no exclusivity here. We don't require that. If you want to remove certain properties from that, that's fine too. You can do that. You can redline all you want, and then give us what you approve, and that's what goes online. Also, once it goes online, you can always pull a property down. It's not a permanent thing. You may not want to do that, but occasionally somebody may want to come in and just go through the old method offline and no title insurance and not spend less money. And that's fine. That's fine. As long as there's nobody else who's already got the process rolling online, they can easily come and do that. Again, this is very, very easy. We have a client liaison that will be assigned to the city of Bastrop. You will have a single point of contact in our company that you'll be able to communicate with, ask questions. So we work very closely with the tax collector because you'll have redemptions. So we coordinate with redemptions. We work directly with you. We give you access. We'll come back and train you. It's very easy, but we'll show you the website, show you how to log on, show you how to access all the data, and let's get adjudicated properties back on the tax rolls.
Question: How do you communicate this to City of Bastrop? The constituents out there that might be interested.
Yeah, and that's a good question. So we have a marketing component. We actually have a full-time marketing person in our firm who coordinates those kinds of efforts. We will do. We have press releases. We will have investor seminars periodically. We'll advertise the presence of Civic Source by bringing email as well as by pamphlets that are flyers that we can actually pass out. We'll advertise get people aware that it exists, and then once people are aware that it exists, we can host an event, maybe even here, somewhere that's local, where we can invite people to come and do almost like a training. Let me answer your questions for you so you feel comfortable buying, and let me teach you how to buy online, and that's what we'll do.
Do you use any of the local realtors, or you use this?
So
Civic Source.
So Civic Source doesn't use realtors because actually we can't guarantee a commission, and it would be an additional cost to burden the process. But what happens is when realtors become aware, they get involved because it's transactions, and almost all of these properties need some level of development. So whoever's buying these are not first-time home buyers. This is somebody who is an investor, a developer, a builder, someone who's going to take this and do something with it, which means another transaction's coming down the road, right? That's where they'll get involved. So they get interested in it up front for that next transaction.
Normally, a $1,500 property, what would it usually sell for?
When you say a $1,500 property, you mean back taxes?
Taxes,
yeah. So keep in mind that the back due taxes, when you're selling adjudicated property, have no bearing at all on the cost it takes to get that to a sale or maybe the ultimate price. Mm-hmm. This new buyer, this third-party buyer at the auction, has nothing to do with the back due taxes, right? You're inviting him to come in and take it over. So what state law actually saw that, and part of the statutory procedure is that you have to, once this property is sold through the statutory process, back-due taxes are wiped off. So your victory is getting it back into the hands of a responsible owner. Any surplus bidding is just icing on the cake, right? It's not about the proceeds from the sale, although you will occasionally get that. It's about getting it sold and getting it back into the hands of a good owner. So, a $1,500, any property, really, doesn't matter how many, it could be $500 of taxes or $5,000 of taxes. The average cost to get a property to sale is $5,000. So now that includes all your closing costs, your title insurance, all the preliminary research. So it's all bundled into one opening bid so that you don't have anybody that gets stuck with closing costs after the sale and have to come out with pocket more money. We put it all up front. And this is all on the site too, and it's all itemized. So people if that's over their budget, they can see it up front and not place a bid. But that gets them all the way through the end. And of course, an auction could bid that price up, but that's the average, and sometimes it's less than that, but that's the average cost of the opening bid.
What is the minimum bid? Just say I wanted to buy some property, what the minimum can I offer?
It's going to be the total cost.
Total cost?
The total cost. So that average of $5,000, that's what you can expect as being the required minimum bid at every auction that it's sold, that every property that's put in the auction. And it'll fluctuate plus or minus a little bit, but that's the average. So that's the cost. That's the cost to put it through that process and to give that into close, to give title insurance to that buyer. So that's the total amount you'll pay for everything.
And the plus is we be getting it back on the tax roll.
That's the number one victory.
That's the bottom line, getting it back on the tax roll.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Well, Mayor, I can't speak for everybody else, but that's a no-brainer. If they doing all the work.
I will add too that once our property tax becomes delinquent after January 1st, this company has already been working with us to collect already. This is just a new phase and a new problem that we've had for years. And we was just waiting till they got the bugs and the whistles and all that and come back with us and say, okay, we're ready. So this is not a new company to us. The website, our staff is already doing that. We experience them even with our our yearly annual delinquent tax sales. They've been doing that online.
We've been working with the Morehouse Sheriff's Office for years.
That's not a problem at all. They work with us and the sheriff for a number of years. So they're not new to us. This is just a new phase that they're introducing to us.
Right. The best solution, now we can absolutely get started with the city and no further, but the best solution is for a partnership with the parish on adjudicated properties because, of course, even though every property in the city of Bastrop is also in the parish of Morehouse. So the reverse is not necessarily true outside the city limits. So the parish has an interest in this as well. Actually, we have met with them in the past, and they have interest. But at the end of the day, once this property is sold, it's sold for both, right? It's only one piece of property. So it's no longer delinquent for either parish. So the parish is going to benefit from this for all the properties in the city of Bastrop that get sold through this process inadvertently. So what we've done is, when we've encouraged our city municipal clients to do in the past is to, as soon as possible, is to reach out to the parish officials, the police jury, and have an intergovernmental agreement for adjudicated properties. We have a template that has worked before. We put this together with Iberia Parish in New Iberia, with Bogalusa in Washington, with Caddo in Shreveport. It's a win-win for both sides. As you mentioned, it's a no-brainer in general, and so it makes sense for once this property is cleared, it's cleared for you as well as for me, right? Parish and city. So it just makes perfect sense. And if they're not on the same page, it can sometimes result in some complications down the road because you do have to work with the assessor. That status of adjudicated is going to change, right? Once it's sold, now it's clear. And what if there are parish taxes still owed, and they're not on board with this? You can't saddle the new buyer with parish taxes because they've already left the city. They're not going to show up. So it's important to have a healthy relationship with the parish, and actually the best solution is when they're all on board together.
So now all we need is a resolution for this, huh?
Is there any adjudicated property that you would not take?
Not if it meets, so we're going to do basically a 14-step process to validate before we even bring it back to you to vote on. If it passes all that, then no. We'll know really early on if we can't do it. Either it's a double assessment, or it was redeemed and we forgot to update the roll, something like that. We'll know. If it's landlocked, there's no road access to, things like that. We weed all that out. If it's a school, if it's a nonprofit, we actually have not just computerized methods to vet that out. We have actual human beings who are looking at the stuff too, and are using their brains to substantively weed out this stuff. And if there's question marks, we'll actually highlight it and we'll bring it back to you, and you'll see, hey, do you want to sell this? I think this is a nonprofit, that kind of thing.
I ask questions.
Stephen,
Yeah.
our tax roll is being prepared right now. And it's, here it is, September. So say they want to go ahead and go with it.
Mhm.
You send the contract to us, we give it to our attorney and let us look at it. He does a resolution in October, they vote to do it. Okay, we're gonna get our tax roll in November.
Mhm.
So that would be the latest information from the tax assessor. Is this a good time?
It's a perfect time.
That's what I
It's a perfect time because it takes some steps like this.
Right.
We're introducing it. We're answering questions. We're going to get the contract, and then we'll, if we're within a month or so of the new roll coming out, we'll just get the new roll when it comes out. Again, it's really simple for the assessor to do this. You just got to communicate. We got to communicate with them and say, hey, send me your latest roll.
Okay.
Do we need to work with, when you're saying we need to work with the parish, do you contact the parish, or do we need to contact the parish to try to get some type of?
Well, both, but it's very helpful if there's a connection directly from the city as well, and especially if they know you're already doing it. You're moving forward. You're not waiting on them to figure this out. And not to say that that's the problem, but again, sometimes it takes one or the other to get it going. We've started with cities and added the parish later, and we've done it the other way around. But at the end, ultimately, you only need one process. So once you combine together, it becomes irrelevant. You're doing it for both anyway, right?
And I will, for Stephen's information too, as it stands now, when someone comes in and wants to redeem their property, we don't redeem it automatically. We call over to the sheriff department and we get what's owed there.
Okay.
And the city of Bastrop collects all the money, and then we send their money to them. And that's the relationship that we have with the sheriff department, and have for years and years. Because it doesn't make sense if I collect our money and we redeem it, and then they've got back taxes, they'll never get their money back. And the same thing happens over there. If they sell a piece and it's adjudicated to the parish, they call us, they collect our money, bring us a check. So I know that's probably a unique situation. I was told in the past, that didn't happen everywhere, but we do that, and that's the reason why. So it may be a few years back that may be doubled in era, but it's not going to be a lot that's going to be adjudicated to both places, because we just don't do it. When they have their sale first, we pull it out and don't sell it over here.
And that's even to emphasize the importance of working with the parish as well. That's even more so because if the only recorded instrument of adjudication is to the parish, not the city, even if it's in the city, it's got to be the parish who okays it.
Right.
Because legally, the recorded interest in the public records is in favor of the parish, and so that would be another important reason to work together with them early on.
It's a win-win situation. We just have to
Absolutely.
wait till Doug
That's right.
get the resolution together, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Do you have a model resolution?
I'm sorry. A model resolution? I know we do.
Would you mind sending one to Ms. Goldman?
Not at all.
That in the contract.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I'll have both sent over to you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it. Look forward to working with you all.
We'll never get there without doing something like that.
Resolution 1675, a resolution authorizing the city of Bastrop, Louisiana to adopt the ad valorem millage rate for the tax year 2016. Ms. Goldman?
Mayor, this is an annual event. This is where, first, this is a reassessment year and as a whole, the city of Bastrop's value of property did decrease from the 4 years prior. But the tax assessor has given us our millage, and it's to collect the same money as we did last year. So this is a step for us to get this. We must pass this resolution, get it to the tax assessor. They, in turn, give it to the legislator auditor. They will approve us our tax roll, and then we will be able to collect taxes in November. So we ask that you consider passing this.
I make that motion, Mayor.
I second.
I have a motion by Mr. Moore, second by
Mr. Locke.
Mr. Locke. Any discussion? All for?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Ordinance 164244, an ordinance granting Atmos Energy Corporation of Texas and Virginia Corporation with its principal office in the municipality of Dallas County, Texas, and its successor, and assign the franchise and rights to conduct in such municipalities the business of acquiring, maintaining, construction, laying, repairing, removing, replacing, installing, operating, and disposing of a gas system for the sale, transportation, and distribution of natural gas within and beyond the municipal boundaries of the municipality and to the residents and businesses located therein for light, heat, power, and any other purposes, and the right to use the present and future streets, roads, highways, alleys, bridges, public ways, and immovable properties in such municipalities, and owned or controlled by such municipalities for such purposes, prescribing the terms of subject and prescribe the terms of such franchise and rights. That was a lot, and the attorney is not here. I know this is acting for the franchise, but this is a gas franchise.
Yes, sir.
And this is what, 15 years franchise?
Right, 15 years?
Yes, sir.
Said the back.
And it's the same form in case y'all contacted Doug to say, now's the time, I want to make some changes. But Doug didn't forward me anything, so this is the same franchise fee. And it's actually the very form that they sent us. So. This was actually introduced, and then we had a public meeting right before.
Okay.
Mayor, I move that we accept this agreement.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Shaw to accept this franchise,
I second.
and a second by Mr. Armstrong and Mr. Locke. Any discussion? All for?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Resolution 1684, a resolution authorizing the city of Bastrop through its mayor to make application to USDA Rural Development Program for a grant in order to purchase 1 street sweeper and 2 dump trucks. Ms. Goldman?
Mary, it's time to ask for money for grants, and 3 major items that the mayor stressed along with Mr. Shaw was a street sweeper, which the last street sweeper we've got right now was bought in 2003. So, and the dump trucks are much needed because we're always breaking down. So we're going to ask for 2 dump trucks and we're gonna hope that we're gonna be granted this money soon. So if y'all would give us permission to fill out the application, we will complete that and put it in the mail.
I make that motion, Mayor.
I second.
We had a motion by Mr. Moore and second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All for?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Discussion action, bids on surplus guns. Chief?
Mayor, Board Alderman, this is the follow-up to, we replaced the new handguns issued to the police officers within the police department, and these are the 28 surplus Glock Model 17 Generation 3 9mm that we have in surplus at the police department. We opened up bids and received 3, and they are as follows. The highest bid was to a Gary A. Geis Sr. out of Sterlington for $6,468.28. The second highest bidder was a Samuel G. Harrington III from Monroe, Louisiana, with a bid of $4,397. And the lowest bid was from Simmons Sporting Goods here in Bastrop for $2,800. Seeing that Gary A. Geis Sr. was the highest bidder at $6,468.28. Pleasure of the mayor and the council, I feel like that should be where it should go.
Thank you, Chief. Okay.
Mayor, also in submitting, Doug always has us to have them give us a copy of their federal firefighter's license. And Doug is not here to review it, so if y'all want to do that, can you make in your motion that we will grant that to the highest bidder pending Doug's review of their license? I wanted him to look and make sure these licenses are in order. If y'all could do that, then I can just email him the license, and then he can tell that. And if it's not, then we won't do it.
I make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Moore, second by Mr. Locke. Any discussion? All for?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Concluding all business. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All for?
Aye.